If I gave you 100 motivated seller leads tomorrow, do you know exactly what will happen? You'll spend the entire week chained to your phone, and most of those calls will go absolutely nowhere. And by the end of the week, you might even get a deal or two. Then you go through that process over and over again. My name is William Yu. I've helped over 150 acquisition companies build an inbound system that's generated more than $8 million in assignment fees just last year. And the difference between guys stuck at $20,000 to $30,000 a month and the ones pushing over $300,000 to $500,000 a month isn't more in-market leads. It's when in the seller's journey they do show up, and what kind of process that you'll build around those leads. And let me show you what most wholesalers get wrong about scaling, and how top operators are using meta and pre-distressed signal targeting to scale without living on the phone 24/7. And here's the part that trips up both beginners and people doing $20,000, $50,000, even $100,000 per month. They're always chasing more leads. I just need more motivated sellers. And if I have 50 more leads a month, I'll be okay. Everything in the industry is built around thinking better PPC, better motivated seller targeting, better PPL providers. But underneath that is one simple reality. Almost all of that is built on lagging indicators. You're paying to get in front of sellers who are currently on a public list or already raised their hand. They're showing that they need to sell fast, which means that they're already being marketed by a bunch of other investors. There's a fixed pool of in-market leads at any given time. And this is something you can't argue with me on. There's only so many pre-foreclosures, tax liens, code violations, people actively searching sell my house fast. You cannot just go into the county courthouse office and bring more donuts to Betty in order to get more records. There's only a static amount of records that's available on a given day. You cannot just tell Google to give you more search traffic when there's no one left to search. Meanwhile, because of how viral wholesaling and buying real estate with creative methods has become, more and more wholesalers and acquisition companies are entering the game every year. So you've got a fixed pool of in-market sellers and a growing number of players targeting all of the same people. That's why your cost of acquisition keeps climbing. It's not a random phenomenon that's just happening. It's just basic supply and demand. And everyone tries to solve that with I need better marketing, I need better sales. But the real problem is usually this: you do not have a brand. No one knows who you are, and you're stuck year over year competing with the same fixed pool of sellers that's available at a given time. You're a stranger showing up at the exact same time 5 to 10 other strangers are, talking to a seller who's already decided they're going to shop around. Just think about any time you already made a decision of what you wanted, whether it's getting a new insurance quote for your home or needing to hire a new property management company. You're typically already in shopping mode. And for example, when I sold my car 2 years ago, here's what I did. I went on Kelly Blue Books. I pulled comps. I filled out either 4 or 5 forms on different websites. And I did that knowing that I was going to get hit with calls and offers from multiple buyers. And that's exactly what happened. There were at least 20 people that called me within that 24-hour period. And was I a motivated seller? Yes. But did I jump on the first offer? No. I shopped. I compared. I waited. I looked at who felt most reasonable and the easiest to deal with. Motivated home sellers behave the same way. So when you only focus on people who have filled out multiple forms, expect multiple calls, and are clearly shopping for the best offer, you're inserting yourself into a comparison game with shrinking margins. You're not early, you're late. And take my client Brad Chandler, for example. He consistently gets lower cost per lead than anyone else I work with. And why, you might ask? Because he's not just running Google ads and hitting the same list as everybody else. He spends $80,000 to $100,000 a month on TV. TV, just like Meta, when used correctly, is a pre-distressed channel. He's not only showing up after the decision has been made, he's in front of people before they even appear on lists. Before they start Googling sell my house fast or even cash buyers near me, before they're actively shopping for investor offers. So when they're eventually deciding to act, they're already seeing Express Home Buyer as the company they want to work with. And he's starting that conversation with a trust advantage that others don't have. That's what happens when you combine pre-distressed reach and brand. And if you're here saying, well, my marketing is doing good and we're consistently driving a 5x return on investment, great. But let me tell you something. In some markets, we already watched the economics stop working for this late stage in-market game. Think about markets like St. Louis or Memphis. If you're paying $300 to $500 per Google PPC lead for a high intent keyword, and it takes about 10 to 15 leads to get a contract, and roughly with a 30% industry contract dropout rate, you're effectively looking at a $3,000 to $7,500 cost of acquisition per deal. And if your typical assignment is $8,000 to $15,000, and maybe even $20,000 on a good one, you're operating roughly at a 2 to 3x return before overhead, before any payroll, software, transaction coordinators, and your own pay. There's not a lot to reinvest and grow. So the question can't just be, how do I get more of these same leads? It has to be, how do I stop relying on the static in-market pool and start creating my own demand sooner? And that's where using Meta for pre-distressed targeting and brand awareness actually makes sense. For example, growing up in New York City, especially around tight-knit communities, you see this over and over again. People do business with people who feels familiar. They work with each other. They refer each other. They buy from each other. Not always because it's the lowest price, but because there's already pre-built familiarity bias, which results to comfort and trust. It's the same thing with bigger brands, because let me ask you, when you walk to the Apple store, are you wondering if Apple is legit and give the sales rep at the store any resistance or even to let me think about it? Of course not, because if you're walking into the Apple store, you're buying something. Even if you can't afford it, they'll get you somehow. And that's happened to me. Apple's marketing already built trust. You're mostly there to confirm the decision as to swipe your card. Right now, most wholesalers out there, they send some text after an opt-in, they make a few calls, maybe send 1 or 2 basic emails, and that's it. Then they wonder why the sales cycle is so long. Why does calls feel like they start from zero? They're always told, let me think about it. Because what most wholesalers get wrong is because they're trying to compress all the touch points into one call, a couple messages, and a single website visit. And then you're out here thinking, if I can get my closers 1% better, I'll fix all of this. And let me tell you, you won't. Sales training has leverage, but changes the front half, who you attract, and when you attract them, and how warmed up they are, has way more. You don't need more leads. You need more eyeballs at the top, more trust before the first call, and a marketing engine that keeps showing up for sellers before everyone else does. Now let me talk about the hidden bottleneck. Most teams are asking their salespeople to do the work that a proper marketing system should have already done. Owners obsess over, how do I get my reps to convert 1 to 2% better? How do I get them to handle objection better? That's fine. But if you're sending them cold, skeptical, late-stage leads and saying, go build trust, go educate, and close in 1 or 2 calls, you now build a system where hiring is hard and training is even harder. And the reps are fighting an uphill battle every single day. A better question serious operators ask themselves is that, how can my marketing do more of the heavy lifting? So by the time a seller is ready to speak to us, they're already mostly pre-sold on the idea of working with us. Look again at the biggest brands. Ferrari doesn't rely on a closer at a showroom to convince you that Ferraris are cool. Apple doesn't rely on a closer to convince you that iPhone's blue text bubble means status. The marketing creates this feeling. Status, certainty, trust, long before somebody walks in. Even in real estate, it's the same psychology. If your marketing makes your company look established and credible, explains how you help and why you're the safe option to work with, and how you can demonstrate real proof and education, then your sales team isn't starting at zero. They're just finishing a decision, not creating it from scratch. One of my clients, Caleb Miller, based out in Milwaukee, is a great example. He's built an entire environment around his brand. Educational emails, Facebook page full of testimonials, and a simple educate the seller content. Resources seller can read without opting to anything. By using our approach, he's hit around an 8x return on investment month over month. And the best part is that when his sellers comes to him, they're saying, I'm willing to choose you over the highest offer because you seem like a legitimate business. And that's what the best sellers that we want care about. Do these people seem real? Do I feel safe working with them? Do I believe they'll do what they'll say? And by the way, I want to put emphasis on the best sellers, the ones that actually need to sell their home and cares to sell their biggest asset to somebody they trust and is not shopping around with 20 different offers. So if you can make your audience feel safe and make them think I'm dealing with serious operators that are secure and professional and stable, before they ever get on the phone, you don't need killer closers to save your business. You already put yourself and your business in a category of 1 by letting your market do the job that it was supposed to do. Most wholesalers try to scale by doubling the amount of manual labor they do. Top operators scale by building systems that quietly handle the work in the background. And I'm not talking about made-up acronyms. I'm talking about specific real components. Pre-distressed meta campaigns that can find sellers earlier, content and ads that educate and build familiarity, and systematic pre-screening that filter out the noise, nurture sequences, and retargeting that keeps you in front of people without having you to do lazy follow-up, and a acquisition process your team can run when real opportunities show up. All of that together replaces 30 minutes of blind discovery calls with unqualified leads, hoping somebody remembers to follow up, and relying on one increasingly expensive in-market channel. We're not here trying to create a magic hack that's going to simply work right now. What we're telling you to do is simply show up earlier, show up more often, and show up in a way that makes the sellers feel ready that they want to talk to you. And the easiest to do all of that is by leveraging Meta for what it's meant to do. The guys doing over $100,000 to $500,000 a month don't treat Meta as just another source of leads. They use it as a way to target sellers before they're on public lists and a way to build brand that makes everything else stronger. PPC traffic works better when they already know your name. Mail works better when they've seen your content before. Cold calling works better when somebody recognizes your company name. When a seller scrolls and sees you on Facebook and Instagram, then later Googles your company and maybe gets a piece of mail. You're not a stranger at this point. You're the company that's been there explaining things and showing up. That familiarity raises your response rate, lowers your cost per acquisition, and makes every conversation easier. Meta becomes the front-end engine for attention, trust, and demand. And this is the real scale breakthrough, and here's how it all comes together. When you stop relying on a static in-market audience and start reaching sellers earlier in pre-distress, build brand and familiarity before the call, let systems pre-screen and nurture the leads, and give your reps conversations with people who already know who you are, you stop being a bottleneck for your business. You're not here trying to fix a fundamental marketing problem with better closers. You're fixing it all at the source. Who you talk to, when you talk to them, and how prepared are they to talk to you? At that point, if you decide to double your ad spend, you're not doubling your hours, you're not doubling your stress. You're feeding a more intelligent process that can absorb the load. And that's why top operators can profitably spend $20,000 to $50,000 per month, not because they live on the phone, because their marketing system does the heavy lifting. You cannot scale to $500,000 or even $1 million a month by just doing more of what you're currently doing. But you will be able to scale by changing when you enter into the seller's world, changing how familiar you are when you do, and letting your marketing do the trust building your sales team has been forced to do manually. From experience, I know you can understand all of this and still burn $20,000 to $30,000 trying to piece it all together alone. That's why me and my team have already worked with over 150 acquisition companies to implement this kind of meta-based pre-distress system and build a real infrastructure required to scale. And if you're looking to create your own demand and bulletproof your business from the year-over-year increase in marketing costs, click the link around this video and schedule a call with me or my team to learn more. On that call, we'll look over your markets, review your current acquisition setup, identify where pre-distress fits in, and walk through what this system could realistically do for your numbers. And if you're not ready yet, that's fine. Watch the next video on the screen, and I'll go deeper into how sellers think and how to start being the brand they paid before they ever hit a list or even search up Sell My House Fast. And I'll see you there.